Hi, folks. This is John McCutcheon. Wanted to let you know that I'm going to be returning to the KVMR area on Saturday, January 6th, to the Grass Valley Center for the Arts. This is not only just another gig for me, it's my opportunity to support the work that KVMR is doing in the community. At a time when we're looking for reliable sources for information and ways to connect us, places where we can celebrate our shared culture, stations like KVMR are more and more important. I hope you agree with me, and I hope you come out to support them. You know, we listen to our radio stations individually, so it's nice to have an opportunity to come together and look around and go, so this is my fellow listening community. What a good-looking group of folks. And you are. I'll be bringing along my usual arsenal of instruments. I have tons of new songs. I've been writing up a storm with friends of mine from literally all over the world, a new album with my buddy Tom Paxton of 14 songs that we have written over the last few years. And I hope you'll come out and join me, have some great fun, some music, and help support KVMR Radio at the same time. See you on the 6th at the Center for the Arts. Thanks a lot.
Oh, my name is Francis Tolliver. In Liverpool I dwell. Each Christmas come since World War I. I've learned its lessons well. That the ones who call the shots won't be among the dead and lame, and on each end of the rifle we're the same.
Tremendous applause there, and went on to be just a great concert, a great rest of the concert there. 2010, that was John McCutcheon singing Yes, Christmas in the Trenches. And joining us on the air right now is John McCutcheon. Hi, John.
Yeah.
And I just thought that it would be a great way to start this interview would be by playing a live version of Christmas in the Trenches, and just have you just talk about how this has affected your career over the years, maybe, or what and what because I mean, not only I believe you did an audio book of it, which was I believe up for a Grammy at least, I think.
Yeah, no, it was a children's picture book. Yeah.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. Okay.
That had an audio element to it. Yeah, but So, am I gonna? Have you already started that?
Yes, I did. We just finished it, and
okay.
I know I should have done it the other way around, but
Are we on the air right now?
Yes, you are live.
Hey, KVMR listeners! I didn't realize that you were eavesdropping on this. Hi.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you that the song was a complete gift. I was a couple weeks from going in to record Winter Solstice back in 1984, and Rounder had a very successful family album for me, How'd You Do? And they were all excited about doing something different. And they said, well, how about a Christmas album? Because that sort of ticks all the boxes of when a recording artist sort of goes rogue from their career. Oh, let's do a kids album. Let's do a holiday album. And I'm sure what they expected was Hark the Herald Angels Sing on Hammer Dulcimer. And so I picked pretty unusual things. I mean, everything from the Huron Carol, which was a Native American piece on dulcimer, to 7 hammer dulcimers doing the vocal parts of the Messiah's For Unto Us a Child is Born with a string quintet. So it was definitely not what they thought it was going to be. And I was excited about it, but I felt like there was something missing. And I was playing in Birmingham, Alabama, and had an episode in the dressing room, which some of your listeners who've been to my shows have probably heard about, where this elderly black woman who was a janitor happened to come in, and we just struck up a conversation and started telling jokes. And when it was time for me to go, I said, "Look, I got time for one more. Tell me your best one." And she told me the story of the 1914 Christmas truce. And not only was I stunned to hear it, because we've been telling jokes. I wasn't expecting a story of that subject or power, but it was like, it was one of those aha moments when I said, that's what's missing from this album. Something that really talks about the spirit in which we are asked to observe and live 365 days a year, the experience of the holidays. I went to the studio, and the first few times I performed it outside, I had no idea what people come up to me and says, "Boy, that's a great song." I'd say, "Thank you," and I would genuinely have no idea what song they were talking about. But then in the studio, the musicians that I was working with, which was the great group Trapezoid, especially the bass and cello player, came to me and said, "This is a really special song. We need to do something really special with this in the studio." And that was the first time I thought, "Oh, maybe I've stumbled onto something here." And what's happened since is it kind of put me on the map as a songwriter. I'd written a bunch of songs before, but I was mostly known as sort of an Appalachian archivist and multi-instrumentalist and storyteller. And it's connected me with people from really all over the world who know about this story or someone involved in the story. Men in Denmark showed up and said, "We heard your song," and that we were there. To meeting the oldest surviving World War I veteran in the United States, a fellow named Frank Buckles, who chastised me saying, "You make it sound like it only happened once." So it's really been a blessing. It was a surprise, and it's something I've tried to curate with a great deal of care.
Well, yeah, that's amazing. I hadn't known that, but it makes sense now because that's your earlier stuff was mostly not singing songs per se.
Right. It was, I put out hammer dulcimer instrumental albums, and then I just did an album of some of my favorite songs for kids and families that I essentially made. I made "How'd You Do" as a first birthday gift to my eldest son. Had no intention of traveling any further down that road, but there were 7 more albums on that tributary. It frankly put my youngest son through college to be strictly practical about it. But it introduced me to the way I write now, which is really going in with and just trusting where the song is going to lead me without having, I don't write with a storyboard. I often don't know which way the character is going to turn. And as a songwriter, that's really the point of liberation. When as Billy Collins says, when your pen is no longer a mere dictation device, but is more like a flashlight. And that's kind of what happened with the song. I didn't intend to write it. I didn't know how I was going to write it, and it just kind of fell out on the paper. I recently turned my papers over to the University of North Carolina's Southern folklore collection, and the pandemic allowed me to go through my papers in a more intentional and sort of granular way than I would have. And I found the original lyrics of Christmas in the Trenches, and I was really surprised how little editing was done.
Well, that's amazing, but that's really cool.
Well, and every writer has that experience. I do these songwriting camps, and heck, lots of people from your area have been to them out in North Carolina, and I have said to every group that I've worked with, saying, every one of you, if you haven't had it already, you're going to have an experience where maybe it's a song, maybe it's a poem, maybe it's a letter to the editor, maybe it's a sympathy card, whatever. You're going to write something and you're going to look at it and go, whoa, where did that come from? And every single person in every camp has said, we've already had that. So as Tom Paxson says, there are some songs you write and others you simply write down. And Christmas in the Trenches was one of those gifts. I just had to be paying attention, I guess.
Well, I hope our listeners are paying attention, because John is going to be in Grass Valley in Nevada County for a KVMR fundraising concert, and it's going to be taking place at the Center for the Arts in downtown Grass Valley on Main Street over there. I think it's on East Main Street, if I recall, but
you can't miss it.
Yeah, you can't miss it. Yeah. and the show begins at 7:00 on Saturday, January 6th. That is the first Saturday in January. Exactly. The
12th night.
Yeah, the 12th night. That's very good.
Old Christmas, as we say out here in Appalachia.
Ah. So you timed it out just perfectly.
I know it's where I want to be, and it's also, it's also the third anniversary of January 6th. So we'll have some memorialization there as well.
Yeah, and whatever you do, don't blur your face, okay?
No, and I won't wear my horns.
And I say that's one of the things that we actually had a little piece about it in a thing called This Way, our Good Week, Bad Week, but the House Speaker, the new Republican,
Mike Johnson,
yeah, made this statement saying, they were going to purpose in all videotapes of January 6th that the House now has, they are going to blur the faces so that nobody can be charged with a crime for committing a crime.
For what they did, yeah. Amazing.
For what they did.
Yeah. Well, I was looking back in my records, and I don't use a set list when I play. I just pick out a first song and sort of see what happens after that. It's a little bit like my songwriting, I guess. And I think the very first time I did a benefit for KVMR was back in 1990. And we have done this almost every year since then, with a couple of notable exceptions, like the pandemic. And one year I was on the DL at the very last minute and couldn't come in 2016. But it's a wonderful kind of relationship, and I feel like KVMR is like my radio station. I frequently tune into it online, and I've gotten to know so many of the people who work there. And of course, the whole point at first was just an excuse to come out and hang with Utah, because we only saw one another at festivals, and he was going on the permanent DL at that point, and So it was a chance to come up to Nevada City. We did it at Miners Foundry the first few years. And it's been a lovely thing, from the Miners Foundry to the Veterans Hall to the high school, and now to the beautifully new renovated Center for the Arts. So I feel like we've kind of grown up together.
Yeah, to some extent, If I were grown up,
Well, come on, Steve. And in fact, I've had KVMR at my house.
That is true. That is true. Yeah.
Many years ago, when the community radio conference, or whatever it was called, was in the Atlanta area, I invited people from KVMR and WMNF from down in Tampa to come over to the house. We had a barbecue or something, I remember. It was great to finally host the people that have hosted me so many times.
Yeah, that was a fun night back over there.
Yeah.
And
well, it's going to be a fun night coming up in just a few weeks. I've got it. Well, news flash: John McCutcheon has another new album out. My brother called me up after he received me. He said, "God, John, you're just like Mom, popping out a new one every year." But this one is different in that this is an album that I did with my pal Tom Paxton. Your listeners, of course, will know that Tom Paxton was the go-to songwriter during the big folk scare of the 50s and 60s, whose name was not Bob. And it just seemed like everybody was recording Tom Paxton songs, from Pete Seeger to Judy Collins to Joan Baez to the Kingston Trio to the Chad Mitchell Trio to John Denver. Some songs that are part of our vocabulary, and people don't even know who wrote Ramblin' Boy or Last Thing on My Mind or I Can't Help But Wonder Where I'm Bound or Bottle of Wine, or hell, he even wrote My Dog's Bigger Than Your Dog, My Dog's Bigger Than Yours. He wrote the Camel Ration commercial, for heaven's sake. It's kind of scary to think that more people know that than Last Thing on My Mind. Yeah, Tom and I discovered early on during the pandemic that Zoom could be used for good as well as evil. So we started co-writing together. In fact, we both started co-writing with a whole bunch of people. But writing with Tom was like putting on a comfortable pair of old boots. We would finish one another's sentences, and we're writing at 2:00 today Eastern time, as we have for years, and we will have no idea what we're going to write about. We'll spend the first half of it talking sports and telling jokes and reminiscing about old pals, and then one of us will eventually say, well, we should write a song, and then 30 minutes later we'll have a finished song. It's really quite amazing. And so we've written well over 100 songs and picked 14 of them to put on this new album, appropriately titled Together. And so I'll have those, and I've been writing with all kinds of people. I've got a wonderful problem to have. I have too many new songs. And they're all over the place. They're really fun stuff, and I'll be doing some of those and a bunch of old favorites, and always take requests the second half. Come on, put on your Birkenstocks and come on out. We're going to have a big time at the Center for the Arts and raise a bunch of money for your community radio stations so that we can all keep doing this. Indeed.
And of course, tickets are already on sale, and you can get them at stringsconcerts.com, which you can also get to that site via kvmr.org, where you just look there and see, click here to get tickets for John McCutcheon. And again, what we're saying, and if you have any problems with the stringsconcerts.com, you can give Peter Wilson a call. who's helping produce this show for KVMR. 530, his number, by the way, is 530-913-5534, or you can go to stringsconcerts.com, or, as I mentioned, kvmr.org, and you're just one click away from something that takes you directly to stringsconcerts.com. So it's...
Yay.
So all you got to know is kvmr.org, and you can get there. And this is a great time to pick up some of these tickets because, they make great stocking stuffers. They don't take up too much room. You can still get all those other presents under the tree.
Well, and it's a great way. I mean, listen, those of you who are listening to this right now already know how much you depend upon KVMR and community radio to keep you informed, inspired, connected. And so this is, you're killing two birds with one stone. You get to come to hear some live music, which is, we realized during the pandemic how much we missed that, both performers and audience members. But you get to support KVMR at the same time. Hey, it's a win-win.
Exactly. And we'd love to have, I think the tickets are going fairly well, that's my understanding. So that's really good to hear. And it also means that people are, starting to realize that there are these things called live concerts again.
Yeah. So, I certainly have realized that, though I'm touring about half as much as I used to, not because, of the pandemic or my, concerns about being in crowded rooms with 300 or 400 other people, but because the pandemic showed me how much I like being home, and that the model I used when I was 20 doesn't have to work when I'm 70. But I'm continuing to come out to the left coast and continue my long familial relationship with KVMR and the KVMR listeners. So no worries there, but I'm definitely not the road warrior I used to be.
Well, but still, we're honored with the fact that you are coming out almost every January once again. Not almost everyone, I got to say, but
Yeah. Well, the only ones that is when I've been prevented.
Yeah.
Both times by disease. I look forward to it. It's sort of it's the beginning of the calendar year for me, and it. There are tours I used to do, which were just going around and visiting a bunch of different communities. But I have been doing this tour for so long that it's really like a family reunion at almost every show. There's people who have been coming for all these, 30 some years, and it's great just to touch base and to feel like you're providing a service to the community at the same time.
Now, John, I don't know if you're familiar with a thing that Utah Phillips did called "What We Need."
I don't think so.
I'd like to play it for you. It's 1 minute. It's 59 seconds long.
Okay.
And it's one of the last things I believe he recorded. But it's just so pure and wonderful. You might want to have a tissue nearby.
Well, if it's Utah, I'm looking at a photograph on my desk of Utah.
All right.
So I can imagine.
We'll play this, and I just wanted to get your reaction to it. I'm assuming you're going to be able to hear it. So
yeah,
here we go.
Everyone needs a nice place to live in, and good food to eat that's not too expensive, and clean clothes with no holes or patches, a doctor to call, an old friend to visit, a way to get places, parties and music, a street to walk safely and benches to sit on with shade in the summer and warm, friendly places to be in the winter. Some work to do that's useful to others and doesn't get boring. and someone checking so no one's forgotten. Money to spend that's given and taken without feeling guilty. Love without pity, pride without anger. Everyone knows what everyone needs, but programs, laws, city councils, commissions, agencies, bureaus can't give it to us. All of us need the best in each other. And if we can find it, and if we can give it, the rest will soon follow. If we all stick together, we'll get what we need.
That was it.
That's a wonderful manifesto, really, and it speaks the truth. You know, we all are connected on a granular level, and we forget that sometimes. I just heard a quote this morning from Mother Teresa. It said, you know, there are wars because we forget that we belong to one another. You know, it's that kind of interconnectedness is at the heart of all the great wisdom traditions, and Utah certainly is part of that wisdom tradition. So thank you for playing that.
Yeah, yeah. And I just think that it's a perfect reason to attend that show. I mean, it's just folks who, like-minded folks, so you know, that just really resonate with what Utah says in that 59-second piece.
Well, and hopefully there'll be some people who aren't like-minded folks who have a chance to enjoy something in common with people that they might otherwise disagree with.
That's
it's one
good.
of the things. It's one of the things that art can do.
Yeah, yeah. And so that would make it great for those folks to just get some exposure to this as well.
Yeah, yeah. And us to them, you know.
And again, it's taking place on January 6th. That is Saturday, January 6th, at the Center for the Arts in downtown Grass Valley. And showtime is 7 p.m. So, yeah, we'll get you home a little earlier, perhaps, if that's what you'd like.
Well, this is an early bird special. I actually like these 7 o'clock shows. You know, where was I? I was someplace out near Gloucester, Massachusetts a few weeks back, and I did a 3 o'clock Sunday show. And it was amazing to get done at a time when restaurants are still open, rather than depending upon, you know, pizza delivery at 11 o'clock at night back at the hotel. So, yeah, well, we'll get you in there and get you out of there in time to have a good night's sleep.
Yeah. And, John, I think what you told us at the very beginning of this about, you know, writing this song and making and it becoming this one pretty valuable part of your show is almost always, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I think there would be a significant number of people who would be disappointed if I didn't sing Christmas in the Trenches. And when I first wrote it, I thought, okay, well, this is something that I'm going to sing in December every year. And, you know, I would be at festivals in July, and they'd say, why didn't you sing Christmas in the Trenches? This is early on. And I said, well, it's July. It's hot. You know, we're not talking about the freezing trenches of 1914. And they said, well, that's a story that deserves to be heard 365 days a year. And it's one of the many instances in which my audiences have told me what my songs are about. Because it's not as a writer, we don't have proprietary information. You know, you put these things out there on send them out the door on their little coltish legs and hope that they do good work. And sometimes that work is really revelatory, and it comes back and teaches you stuff you didn't even know, which is pretty great.
Yeah. Yeah. It's exactly that exactly is the experience of a John McCutcheon concert, and lots of other great artists as well. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, heavens yes.
But we just did a night of giving. I believe this was the 18th one, which was to raise money for the Hospitality House in Utah.
Well, I think I think that I was a part of one of those one year. When I was in town, and it might not even been when I was doing a concert for KVMR. I think I was there just visiting Utah, and he said, "We're having this thing," and I went down and played a few songs. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. There are about 15 different artists performing this past Saturday, including and Utah's son Brendan was introduced by Utah's granddaughter, 8 years old. She's now 8 years old, and she was wearing a Taylor Swift outfit, an 8-year-old version.
Of course. You know, that's her sweet spot.
And we were so happy. Maggie McCaig, a local performer and the producer of the show, we were just so happy to be able to introduce her to the audience. Her name is Juniper.
Of course it is.
And it was just it was just a lot of fun, and that just really brought home, the fact that wow. There's a couple generations below us now, John.
Oh, listen, I'm really well aware of that. One of the most exciting things for me about going to festivals these days is, unlike 20, 30 years ago when I knew every single person on the bill. Hold on, Maybell. That's okay. It's just somebody bringing bills to our. And these days, I don't know most of the people on the festival bill, so it's really exciting for me to see this whole new generation of great musicians and writers and singers and performers coming up. It's weird to feel like an elder. But I'm one of the oldest living graduates now. Though I still feel like that 20-year-old kid that stuck his thumb out at the end of our farm drive up in Wisconsin 50-some years ago, heading off to find anybody besides myself that played the banjo. So yeah, it's wonderful to see a new crop of people coming along.
And about how many instruments will you be bringing, speaking of banjos?
As many as Delta Airlines will allow. I'll have a hammered dulcimer and a guitar and a banjo and an auto harp, and I'm back to playing the fiddle now after 2 bouts of hand surgery, which prevented me from playing the fiddle for over a year.
Oh, great.
And then they have a beautiful piano at the Center for the Arts, and that's probably plenty. Let's just say I'll have plenty of instruments. It's another product of being raised before Ritalin. There was, let's try that. Oh, look at this: squirrel, fiddle, hammered dulcimer. Yeah. In fact, I'm in my studio right now, and I just did an online show last night, so I've got mountain dulcimers and concertinas and baritone guitars, and I just picked up a Cora recently. So I've got lots of projects to fill my time that used to be filled with going to airports in the past. So I'm using my time responsibly.
All right.
Sister Steve.
Yeah, I thought, John, I thought we'd go out with something to everyone in all the world.
Uh-huh.
the Pete Seeger celebration that you did. Just because.
And which song would you like to do?
I'm going to ask you what one you'd like to hear, and we may not get through the entire song, but we'll get through as much as we can.
Well, let's do the title song, "To Everyone in All the World." It's a short one, and it's me and my buddies Stuart Duncan, the great fiddle player, and Tim O'Brien.
Sounds good to me. We will do that, sir. Okay?
Great talking to Steve. Great being with you all digitally out there in KVMR land, and I'll see you in a few weeks.
All right. Hey, thanks so much for taking time with us today here, John.
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve.
All right. And here it is. And here it is, "To Everyone in All the World."
Everyone in all the world, I reach my hand, I shake their hand. To everyone in all the world, I shake their hand like this. All together, the whole wide world around. I may not know your lingo, but I can say by jingo, no matter where you live, we can shake hands.